Welcome to the Krusty Fox, and let's just get this out of the way quickly. This week, Carrie's obsession with Big reignites in spectacular fashion. Nobody's happy about it, but let's try to get through it together, shall we? This episode of Sex and the Shitty stalks its way through an installment called Attack of the 5'10". For the video, don't forget to breach your restraining order by dropping a like and subscribing for more every week. And keep watching from the shadows until the very end for last week's top comment and this week's question. We kick things off this week at brunch, where the four ladies are poring over the newspaper's wedding section in search of an excuse to ruin their Sunday. Side note, Miranda is the only one at the table drinking a Bloody Mary. Appropriate. Charlotte misses the irony, distracted as she is, by moaning about all the men at her spinning class being gay. Which is like going to Disneyland and then complaining on Yelp that you didn't get a meet and greet with Batman. Speaking of Yelp, Charlotte lets out a loud one when the wedding section decides to do Carrie dirty. For there, in bold black and white, is Big's enormous bonce above the announcement of his marriage to relatively normal person Natasha. Charlotte accompanies Carrie back to her apartment, under the pretense of stopping her from spending the afternoon scream-crying in the shower with a handful of soggy broadsheets. Instead, she reads the whole lot out while Carrie gets drunk, hinting at her true nature as an energy vampire. While going through one particular account of Big and Natasha's first meeting, Carrie has the brass balls to criticise the quality of the journalism. The equivalent of a Michelin star restaurant being put on blast by a condemned back alley food truck. It's a fact that endures the test of time when the two of them meet 20 years later and Carrie looks like someone dragged up a piece of beef jerky.
Someone's in here! Oh my god, sir! Oh my god! Oh.
A shopping trip with Miranda fails to distract Carrie from Big's doomed union. A problem compounded by Natasha unexpectedly popping out of the changing room next door while Carrie's quirkily standing around in her undercrackers. Natasha spots her and is, in fairness, perfectly friendly considering the awkwardness and hatred coming at her from Carrie and Miranda's direction. That's when she learns that Natasha is the organiser of the annual Women in the Arts luncheon, which Carrie apparently gets a pity invite to because she just about qualifies as a writer. Learning that a woman she has entirely invented a feud with is encroaching on what she sees as her territory is the Bradshaw-verse version of two dogs having a turn-based piss war over a lamppost. Carrie explains this imaginary dispute to Samantha as she tears her bedroom apart trying to find the party invite like the Tasmanian devil in caffeine withdrawal. Having met Natasha twice while looking like shit, she declares her intention to impress upon their next meeting. Apparently, disputes over men in the 90s were much like balancing a checkbook. If the objective was to enjoy a brief moment of equilibrium before frantically building up credit like a millennial trying to get a mortgage. Giving up and returning to her first love, amateur journalism, she turns this conflama into, hands down, one of the most conceited headlines she ever cranks out. Are there women in New York who are just there to make us feel bad about ourselves? Over at Miranda's place, she's getting increasingly antsy about new housekeeper Magda's intrusive efforts to reorganise her stuff. Presumably because she's only one closet away from discovering two partially mummified corpses and a necklace made of thumbs. It's a different disembodied appendage altogether that Magda finds in the bedside table, however, when she unceremoniously unveils Miranda's whore drawer.
No, that drawer doesn't need organizing.
For some reason, Ms. Hobbs finds it necessary to explain that she has a boyfriend, and that the poorly hidden Buzz night gear is a remnant from her single days, when a simple f*** off would have sufficed. In an attempt to relax away from these trivial happenings, the ladies take themselves off to a spa's steam room. Charlotte goes against the apparent convention by keeping her towel firmly in place, despite there being more pussy on display than a cat shelter after a hurricane. When Carrie asks what's up, the show attempts to address something real as Charlotte hints that she's suffering from body dysmorphia. Something it might achieve were it not for the fact that its whole run is about deifying statuesque women and treating anyone above a size 0 as a grotesque punchline. After a massage, Samantha receives an unsolicited recommendation to give Monsieur Kevin a try next time. Kevin, she's told, uses some all-natural tools to palpate a few unorthodox areas and ensures his clients receive an ending happier than Drew Barrymore in a rainstorm. That night, in Miranda's bedroom, she reaches for her diddle stick to find that Magda has replaced it with a figurine of the Virgin Mary. Rather than an immediate fit of rage, she seems to experience a brief moment of depraved pragmatism, where Mary's at serious risk of going on a journey far more treacherous than a donkey ride to Bethlehem. After Carrie's blunt, limited encouragement to face her body issues, Charlotte heads back to the steam room to try whacking her tits out in a public setting. Naturally, because this is Sex in the City, all it takes is a stranger's jealous compliment on said flapjacks to undo what previously sounded like the after effects of childhood body shaming. If it were that easy, I'd just hire somebody to follow me around screaming positive affirmations at me from a distance.
Yes, queen!
In a nearby massage room, Samantha's taking the plunge with highly rated Kevin in the hopes that his face eventually does some plunging of its own. When he bypasses her flapdragon entirely, and with her session almost over, Samantha decides to just grope him instead. When she finds her criminal approach thoroughly rebuffed and her membership at the spa cancelled, Sam spills the beans to Kevin's manager about his word of mouth of Bush. Not her finest moment by any means, and a reminder that while she ends the show with the most dignity, she's still being steered by the same writing team as the other three. The day of Natasha's luncheon rolls around, and Carrie brings Sam along for moral support, who immediately undercuts the classy overtones of the event by loudly complaining about her uneaten crotch waffle. Further ruining her plans is the revelation that Natasha isn't even coming after catching a cold, probably from the sub-zero sidewind coming off Miranda's earlier death stare. Speaking of, Miss Hobbs extracts from Magda the location of her missing Mimsy Mangler. While Miranda's outlining the less invasive terms of her continued employment, Magda claims that keeping a personal aide by the bed will convince a man that he's no longer needed. Which is how we know she hasn't tried both. Back at the luncheon, the attendee next to Carrie naively tries to interest her in a writing workshop for underprivileged kids. Perhaps in an effort to keep them permanently under the poverty line. A sauced-up Carrie callously bats away the opportunity to commit a selfless act, I assume, in fear that it would rob her of the chance to assume her rightful place on the throne of hell. Samantha makes a merciful intervention when she strolls over with old college roommate of Natasha's, Jenna. Harking back to my point about the show's abusive relationship with body positivity, Jenna's sporting a flicked bob, a very visible mustache, and a tale about Natasha gaining 10 pounds. Back home, Carrie receives a handwritten thank you from Natasha for attending the luncheon and is delighted to find a spelling mistake. For this, she labels her an idiot and immediately calls Miranda to gloat. It's worth reminding you that this is a show that has passed into modern legend as a touchstone of female empowerment. At this point, you'd find more sisterhood in an all-male remake of Mean Girls. Hey there, hope you enjoyed this week's episode. If you did, remember to leave a like and subscribe for more horrible happenings next week, or I'll send you shoe shopping with Carrie. You'll last 10 minutes, tops. Which brings us nicely onto last week's top comment. I asked whether a partner's height has ever bothered you or would potentially put you off them. Commenter Christine's ex showed that great things could come in small packages, and his description as a, quote, terrific lover suggests that his probably wasn't. You really can't beat a surprisingly sizable snot rocket. Good for you, girl. This week's question is, have you ever looked up an ex's new partner, and if not, would you ever? Answers in the comments below please, and the best will take a lap in the next video. Either way, thanks for watching, and remember, if you can't be good, be crusty.